Hello Buckeyes, hello Tomcats. Today we're doing another lesson on perimeter. This is Unit 5, Lesson 11. By now you should have finished the do now. If you need a little bit more time, go ahead and stop the video now. Number 1 is asking you to plot and connect the points on the coordinate plane to form a polygon. So point A, run, then jump to point A, which I'm going to label. Point B is at 5, 1. Now what I'm going to do is as I plot my points, I'm going to connect the dots in order. So point C is at 5, 5. So I'm going to run 5, jump 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Label it with a C and connect the lines. Now letter D is at 1, 5. Plot my point. Go from C to D. And now, in order for it to be a polygon, remember it needs to be a closed shape. So I'm going to close it by connecting vertex D to vertex A. And number 1 is asking me to name the polygon that we created right here. So I'm going to go ahead and find my distance from D to C. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I've got right angles here, and I've got distances that are the same all the way around, so I know that this is a square. Now number 2 is asking me to find the perimeter of this polygon here. So remember, to find the perimeter you need to add the lengths of the perimeter. So 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4. Remember, we could shorten that also by 4 times 4, which you all know is 16, not figuring our label of units. So this is a square with a perimeter of 16 units. Now number 3 is asking us to use this coordinate grid above to plot -7, -1, and 2, -4. Now that's telling us that those are 2 vertices of a rectangle. Think about what it means to be a rectangle. Remember, that's right angles and opposite lengths are equal. So I'm going to plot point R at -7, -1, -7, -1, and label it with a point R. Now point T is at 2, -4, so I'm going to run 2, jump down 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is my point T. Now I can't connect these right here because I know that it needs to be a rectangle. So this here is asking me what coordinates I can plot to make this a rectangle. I can see that if I wanted to make this a 90-degree angle, I would need to go straight up from T and straight across from R. So straight up from T and straight across from R would give me a point right here. Now if I wanted to go straight across from T and then straight down from R, I would need to plot my second point here. Now point S, I know that my X value is at -7. So I know that this value here is at -7. It's going to be my S. It's at -7, jump down 1, 2, 3, 4. -7, -4. So now this must be point U, which is located at 2, -1. And I can go ahead and connect the dots. And I do, in fact, come up with a rectangle. Now number 4, I'll leave that up there so you guys can see it a little bit. Number 4 is asking to find the distance between these 2 points. Point A at 3, -6, and point B at 3, 4. Now remember, in order to find the distance, we're going to use absolute value. So I'm going to get rid of the numbers I don't need anymore, and I'm going to find the absolute value of -6 and the absolute value of 4. Now remember, if the signs are different, you add. Same sign subtract, different signs add. So I'm going to add these. 6 plus 4 gives me 10. The distance between the 2 points is 10 units. Now go ahead and flip the page. This is our skill builder. We're adding decimals again and then finding sums of money. So go ahead and take 1 minute to solve these two problems. If you need a little bit more time to complete these two problems, go ahead and take it now. I'm adding these decimals. I'm going to add 4 and 12 hundredths, 6 and 9 tenths, and 5. Now, just to make this a little bit easier on me, I'm going to fill in all of my decimal places with zeros. Because remember, adding zeros to the end of a decimal doesn't change the decimal itself. So now I can add straight down. I've got 2 plus 0 is 2. 1 plus 9 plus 0 gives me 10, and I carry the 1. Bring down my decimal point. 1 plus 4 is 5. 5 plus 6 is 11. And 11 plus 5 gives me 16. For an answer of 16 and 2 hundredths. Now number 2 tells us that Mr. Scott has 4 coins and the sum of his money is 37 cents. What coins does he have? Well, he's got 1 quarter, which is worth 25 cents. He's got 1 dime, which is 10 cents. And then he has 2 pennies, which are each worth 1 cent. And I could add those up, and that would give me 37 cents. We're going to flip the page to our notes section. Today's aim, student would be able to calculate the perimeter of polygons in the coordinate plane with intervals greater than 1. Now up until now, we've done perimeter where our interval went a very nice and tidy 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But if we look here, we can see that our coordinate plane is not always going to go by intervals of 1. This one, for instance, goes by 2s. So we're going to need to do something other than counting. So we have A, B, C, and D. And I would like you to go ahead and plot A, C, and D. Do that now. So right now I've got my points A, C, and D plotted. I can't plot point B because I'm not quite sure what it's asking me to do yet. Number one, what are the coordinate pairs for point B to create a rectangle? Now remember back to the front page where we talked about rectangles that has 4 right angles and opposite sides are equal in length. So I know that in order to create a right angle, I either need to go straight up or straight down from point A. So I'm going to go straight down from point A because it's opposite point C. I'm going to label this point B. Now I'm going to connect my dots in alphabetical order. A, B, C, D. And then making sure to close that polygon D back to A. So I can fill in my coordinate pair for point B. I know that I have to run here, which some number between 2 and 4. Now if I'm counting in between 2 and 4, I can probably think that this right here is going to be a run of 3, and I can see that it's on this line for a jump of 2. So x coordinate 3, y coordinate of 2. Now I am wondering what the height is right here. Remember, we need to know the height and the length in order to find perimeter. So if I wanted to find the height, I could do a couple things. I could find the distance, or I could count. I can count pretty easily by 2s, and since these are both on the lines, that makes this really easy to do. So I can start at B and count 2, 4. So the distance between point B and point A is 4 units. Now on number 3, this is where it gets a little bit trickier. Point 3 is asking what the length of the rectangle is. Now I need to go from C to B to find the length. And if I'm looking here, I can't really count by 2s. I could, it's going to be a little bit difficult though, because they are in between my hash marks, my grid lines. So what I can do is I can use absolute value to find the length between C and B. So the point C and B, I see that I have 2's in common, so I'm going to ignore those for a second. And I'm going to find the absolute value of -5 and the absolute value of 3. Now, if the signs are different, that means I add. The absolute value of -5 is 5. That's 5 units away from 0. And the absolute value of 3 is 3. That's 3 units away from 0. So I have a length of 5 plus 3 gives me 8 units. And now that I know the height and the length of this rectangle, I can fill that in on my grid. So my height here is 4 and 4, while my length is 8 and 8. And on number 4 is asking me to find the perimeter of the polygon. Well, I see that I have a height of 4, a length of 8, another height of 4, and then another length of 8. And I can add those all up and find the perimeter. Take about 10 seconds to do that. So when I add this up, I have 8 plus 4 is 12, plus 8 plus 4 is 12. Now 12 plus 12 gives me 24, and not wanting naked numbers, I need to include my label of 24 units. So the perimeter of polygon ABCD would be 24 units. And now, once again, we're not always going to have a coordinate plane to graph this on. Sometimes we're just going to have to do it in our head. And right now, we're given the coordinates of vertices of a rectangle Remember, I like to underline key words of rectangle, thinking about what rectangle is, and vertices, trying to remember what a vertice is. So, the vertices are -2, 3, 4, 3, 4, -4, and -2, 4. Now, I would like you to figure out the dimensions of the rectangle. I'll give you 2 minutes to do that on your own. Do your best. If you get stuck, think about what this means and what this means. Go ahead. So I know this might have been a little tricky without a coordinate plane, but when you look at this, you know how to find the distance between these points. You know that you can use absolute value to compare these lengths and these lengths. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I can do the absolute value of -2 and -4, thinking about what I do with signs that are different, and then I can find the length between these 2 points, ignoring the things that are the same, which would give me an absolute value of 4 and an absolute value of 2. Now, I want you to take 1 more minute to go ahead and finish finding the dimensions of this rectangle. The first part, I know that if signs are different, I can add. So the absolute value of -2 is 2, plus the absolute value of 4 is 4. 2 plus 4 gives me 6. And again, if signs are different, I add. The absolute value of 4 is 4, plus the absolute value of -2 is 2. So what I can do is add them together to get 6. And if you came up with 6 units by 6 units, you were right. And if you got confused by these selections here, that's fine too, because it was actually selection E. 6 units by 6 units. So that means I can find the perimeter of the rectangle by adding the lengths. I have 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6. And that gives me 6 times 4 for an answer of 24 units. So I'd like to take one more minute to explain in a complete sentence what steps you used to find the perimeter of this polygon. 1 minute. My first step to find perimeter was finding the lengths of the sides. Next, I added the 4 side lengths. And that would have given me an answer of 24. On the next page, we're going to be graphing the polygon A, B, C, D, E, F, which has vertices. Remember, vertices are the points at the following coordinates on the grid below. Now, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to plot these first. Don't draw any lines. I'd like you to plot them first. Go ahead and take 1 minute to plot all 6 points, A, B, C, D, E, and F. Point A I see is at, I'm actually going to zoom out so you can see this entire grid. Point A is at -4, 7, making sure to label it with the letter A. Point B is at 6, 7. Point C is at 6, -2. D, -8, -2. Point E is at -8, 3. And point F is at -4, 3. Now, one of the biggest mistakes I see young mathematicians make is that they get too excited about plotting the lines that they don't do them in order. They see lines and they think they need to connect them all. Now, I want you to make sure that you are just going to connect them in this order. Sometimes it'll be alphabetical, sometimes it won't be. But in this case, it is. So we go A to B, B to C, C to D, D to E, E to F. And then in order to make it a polygon, I need to close my shape and go from F to A. And now I'd like you to find the perimeter of this polygon. So take 1 minute, think about how you might do that, and go ahead and solve. 1 minute. Now, before you can find a perimeter, you have to find the lengths of all the sides. First thing I'm going to do is count all the sides so I know how many numbers to have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I have 6 sides, so that means I should have 6 different measurements. Now, my first is from A to B. This is a length of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. D to C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. C to D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. D to E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. F to A is 4, and E to F is 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now, if you added all of those together, 10 plus 9 plus 14 plus 5 plus 4 plus 4. Remember, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lengths. You would get an answer, a perimeter of 46 units. Now, at this point, we've reached the end of the guided practice and notes section. So if you are a little confused on anything, feel free to rewind the video, go back and look, or raise your hand, and I'll do my best to accommodate your question. At this point, we'll flip the page to independent practice. Thinking about what independent means. Go ahead.